Parole.
Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party is very clear in support of victims, and our period of time proved that, as our learned friend down here would understand if he followed us over that period of time. But this is an outrageous bill. There's been enough international research that says that lengthy prison sentences don't correct and get people on a better plane. Recidivism. And I hope that the Māori Party is voting against this, because there is no evidence to suggest that this will reduce crime. Recidivism in Māoridom. It's been common knowledge that under the age of 22, 23, that if a young Māori commits a crime, then they appear in court 6 times. I remind the government about that great public servant, Margaret Baisley, who recently let a report come out that suggested that the process of legal aid had a lot to be answered for. And so I can see, and I'm appalled, and I relish the speech that my fine Whanaunga Hekia gave apparently out of the marae about people's attitudes to how we should manage crime. And she said that, you know, when it's a Māori, it's splashed all over the front page of the Dominion. Something like that anyway. And that's a fact. If it's the kohanga reo, $20,000. But let me remind you that a lot of these quick deliverers and finance companies have gone down the gurgler. Outrageous. And yet you hardly hear anything about it. Hardly anything about it, Mr. Hyde. Terrible. And apart from small businesses struggling at the moment, this will not help it. We already hear the government complaining about the bed space, in prisons, and it's amazing. So, 3 strikes and out. You listen to the 2 former speakers, you can get this hint of bash them over, lock them up, and everybody will know that we're tough. This is about tough love. This is a whole lot of rubbish. And if you go back to the period of time of the last national government, they said it time and time again, that correcting the insidiousness of crime, and we recognise that. Now, what they did say at that time, and they led it for the first part of their period of government, was that longer sentences was not the way to go. And all of a sudden now we have this huge flip-flop. The Justice Minister, Simon Power, he has slowly and carefully distanced himself from this legislation. Everybody knows that. The commentaries from some of the senior judges in this country are saying the same thing. And I could stand and hypothesise about history and cite the fact that being colonised, and I won't, but if you're working class people, Mr. Garrett, like those in the 50s, 60s and 70s, and all of your people were used as factory fodder, and the landed gentry and the upper class managed all the wealth, then what would you say about that? Of course you will get trouble. And the working class Pākehā were no different. And now we get to this supposed great time and we say, how will this attract the vote? How will this attract the vote? We'll sting them with it. And it is unreal. They say that this bill is good for victims. Well, one of the real fears that if you read the writings about victims and how they broach it, how they manage it, of course, our families having been victims, it's a horrendous experience. But there is all the essence of prolonging that hurt, prolonging that agony by this long period of sentencing.
Thank you.
That last speaker who was speaking really was trying to play standover tactics. And the Attorney General, Chris Finlayson, found the bill as introduced has an apparent inconsistency. So you can see the gap widening, splitting. With the section of the Bill of Rights protecting New Zealanders against cruel, degrading or disproportionately severe punishment. We had Hona and his colleagues huffing and puffing and celebrating about signing up to the United Nations Charter. And it will evolve, and history will tell us how it could help us. But that was about rights, and how can people in the government support this bill? How can they do that? Because where I come up, people still line up in the courts like in Hastings and that, huge queues of them. And can you blame them if they're trying to feed their kids? Can you blame them if they're getting nicked for everything that they're getting into? It's all well to be clean and clear and pontificate about how well the world should work. But those people that we were sent to Parliament, some of us anyway, to protect and support, and in my case, a whole lot of Māoris who have not been recharged and counted up again through no fault of their own. Through no fault of their own. And this party does believe I'm being tough in crime. But it is quite clear that some people have taken a single line and making tougher sentences and bringing down the crime to really benchmark about something that is really academic. Because the experts say that. Mr. Bolger was great in the sense of trying to push and have people understand that there were different ways of correcting and penalising people for crime. And we are supportive of the rights of victims, and we are supportive of those at a level who are consistently committing horrendous crimes, but this is spreading the blanket so far that it catches the people who have been penalised through no right of their own. When you're a young Māori and you're 16, 17 and you go to court and the legal aid, which is guaranteed payment, says to them, you better plead guilty till we work it out. Then they go to court again 3 months' time and they say, you better plead guilty, and they get paid. And then they go back the next time and say, we may get a deal for you. And we'll consider it, and then they'll go and try and bargain. So 4 times getting paid, and at the end of the day, the Māori gets locked up. Why should they be punished on minor issues and other crimes? 3 strikes and you're out. The only place that is fit, in essence, is on the softball paddock. Is on the softball paddock. So you've got this minister here pitching the ball down to a whole lot of other fancy foot academics being unkind and trying to make out that this is about getting tough. And then they're squealing. It is about beds. What about the 15 staff put off in Gisborne at the moment? What about the 47% unemployed in Wairoa? And that's how crime busts out and has to be managed. I heard the minister over there saying one day, or somebody said today, about being intelligent. If this is how you want to be perceived as being intelligent, then God forbid what will happen in our prison system as we go forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call Dave Clendon.
Thank you, Mr.